Hello you guys, I hope you're doing great. Hello guys and girls, I hope you're doing great. I'm doing fantastic. And before I start rumbling, let me simply wish you all happy Black History Month. Yes, as I'm filming this, it is already February 3rd, so we're already in the month already. So obviously y'all know it is a time where we highlight everything Black. Not only do we celebrate Black excellence, Black joy, but we also take the time to reminisce and remember our ancestors who have paved the way for you and I to be here. So without further delay, let me tell you what this video is gonna be about. So I will be presenting you guys some of the books that I will be reading for the month of February. We're gonna have some non-fiction books, some fictional book, and other fantastic books, okay? And I'm excited to show them all to you. So without further ado, come along. Jambo, Karibu, welcome to my channel. My name is Chilanda and this is Library Without Borders. As I was mentioning earlier, it is Black History Month and I am very excited to share some of my books that I have compiled or that I have chosen for this specific month. Some books I know are gonna be a bit hard to read and some are gonna be light. You guys know I've always said that in most of my videos. I feel an obligation to read slave narratives because our ancestors went through so much, and the least we can do while living, freely and enjoying life and being able to do what we do is read about their story and make sure that their stories are not lost or forgotten. I also wanted to mention something that I came across. There's this other booktuber that I also watch. Her book channel is called The Story Ain't Over, and I think she's also Canadian. I think she is from Toronto. But she mentioned something important in one of her shorts video, and she said outside of us wanting to read books to escape reality, which is fine, we also have to take the time to educate ourselves. Because whether we like it or not, we still live in the world, and reality sometimes, as unpleasant as it is, we still have to be aware and we have to educate ourselves. That's just not something we can avoid. Ignorance is never bliss. All right, you guys, so let's get into the first book that I want to read for the month of February. Now, I'm not gonna read them in this order, but let me just present them to you. Okay, so the first book is this one. Now, this book was part of my January TBR, and I read all the books except this one. So, it is Mother to Mother by Sendiwe Magona. So it says, a 25th anniversary edition of this now classic novel exploring the complicated legacy of colonialism and apartheid through the lens of a Black African woman whose son has just murdered a white American aid worker. Based on the true story of Fulbright scholar Amy Beale's murder, the book takes the form of a letter to Beale's mother. There you have it. So I find that very appropriate for the time, and I can't wait to finally read it. The second book that I will be reading, this one is actually a pick for my book club. So it is River Sing Me by Eleanor Shearer. At first, when I looked at the picture of the girl, I thought she was white, but she's of mixed race. Because what I want to do is make sure that the books that I read are by Black authors. But I also realized that some of the stories that I want to read can be about Blacks, but written by white people, or non-Black people. That's the only thing I'm like, ugh. But anyways, we'll see. So, The Master of the Providence plantation in Barbados, gathers his slaves and announces the king has decreed an end to slavery. As of the following day, the Emancipation Act of 1834 will come into effect. The cries of joy fall silent when he announces that they are no longer his slaves, they are now his apprentices. No one can leave. They must work for him for another 6 years. Freedom is just another name for the life they have always lived, so Rachel runs. Away from Providence, she begins a desperate search to find her children. The 5 who survived birth and were sold. Are any of them still alive? Rachel has to know. The grueling, dangerous journey takes her away from Barbados, deep into the forest of British Guyana, and finally across the sea to Trinidad. She is driven on by the certainty that a mother cannot be truly free without knowing what has become of her children, even if the answer is more than she can bear. These are the stories of Mary Grace, Micah, Thomas Augustus, Cherry Jane, and Mercy. But above all, this is a story of Rachel and the extraordinary lengths to which a mother will go to find her children and her freedom. Does that smell ripe for this month or what? Exactly. The next one is Under the Udala Trees by Chinelo Okparenta. Now, some of these books have been recommended by some of you, my subscribers, which I thank you. I think there's another book. It's not going to be part of this list, but it was also recommended by D. Ruxel. So, what is this book about? Ijeoma comes of age as her nation does. Born before independence, she is 11 when civil war breaks out in the young Republic of Nigeria. Sent away to safety, she meets another displaced child and they, star-crossed, fall in love. They are from different ethnic communities. They are also both girls. But when their love is discovered, Ijeoma learns that she will have to hide part of herself and there is a cost to living inside a lie. Inspired by Nigeria's folktales and its war, Chinelo Okparenta shows us in graceful and precise prose how the struggles and divisions of a nation are inscribed on the souls of its citizens. Powerful and heartbreaking, Under the Udala Trees is a deeply moving commentary on identity, prejudice, and forbidden love. Am I just I'm excited. This has what? Forbidden love, appropriate for Valentine's Day, and we're talking about civil war in Nigeria. This is just it. This has everything I want for Black History Month. Yes and yes and yes. Now, the next one is not a novel per se, but it's like the history of African art. Now, this is by Suzanne Preston Blair. I have to double check if she's Black. But the reason why I picked this book, and I'm not sure that I'm going to be reading it as a novel because of the way it is, it's just showcasing arts, where they came from and things like that. So, I've never told you guys, but I used to draw. Now, I'm not a great artist. One day I will show you. But I used to love drawing, and I remember I would draw portraits of my siblings. I have attempted to draw a portrait of hubby. So what I noticed is that my drawings are based on the people I attempt to draw, but they never quite look like them, but you could still a little bit of realism to it. So anyways, I thought it'd be great to actually discover a little bit of history, African art. And I love, I have some African paintings in my home, and I love anything that is African artistically related, so I'm sure I'll find a way to educate myself on this and present it to you in some form or some way. Okay, so yeah. Next we have The Impatient. Again, this is also one of the books that was recommended either by, like I said, either D. Ruxel or one of you, my subscribers, and it looks thin. It won't be too hard to finish it. Now, this author is actually born in Cameroon, which I love because I have yet to read a book centered in Cameroon, so this is fantastic. So Muniao, patience, is the only consolation given to a heartbroken Ramla on her wedding day. It is the Fulani reply to any wife's grievance, and after being torn from her love, the only piece of advice the men of her family prescribe ahead of Ramla's arranged marriage. Crafted around the course of 3 Fulani women, The Impatient is a gripping portrait of the struggles of equality in northern Cameroon. Women, a country set in Africa, a marriage, love, all of this just sound like great ingredients for a fantastic book for this month. I mean, I'm amazed. I mean, I hadn't even read the synopsis when I picked all these books. I was like, I want to read this for Black History Month. I want to read this for Black History Month, and boom. And now I have a fantastic collection. So I'm kind of proud of myself, you know. I did that, yeah, I did that. After the luminous Ramla comes her quiet sister Hindu. It's not like Hindu, Hindu. It's Hindu, OU. Forced to marry their delinquent cousin as a means to rehabilitate his violent nature. And finally, Safira, Ramla's new co-wife, who stoically accepts sharing her husband of 20 years behind a smile of gritted teeth. From an early age, these 3 were raised to submit to men or risk shame and repudiation of themselves and their families. Yet Ramla, Hindu, and Safira are tired of waiting for happiness that may never come. Inspired by the author's own experiences, Jali Amadou Amal's literary debut in English is a rallying cry for change, not only for Cameroon, but around the globe. Yes, 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 and yes. Its unflinching portrayal of subjugation and violence illuminates the enduring plight of women in the West African Sahel region with powerful grace and honesty. Urgent and taboo-breaking, The Impatient is an indispensable novel about the limits of human spirit before patriarchy. Yes, and yes, and yes. Yo, I'm about to do an African dance right here just because these are the kind of books that just draw me in. And thank you for you who have, you know, recommended this. I can't wait. I can't wait. Now, next, we have some heavy things. Now, before I introduce this next one, those who don't know me yet, I simply want to tell you I am from Congo. And Congo is in Africa. You know, it's Congo Kinshasa because there are 2 Congos. There's Congo Brazzaville and Congo Kinshasa. And my country is the 3rd largest country on that continent. It's the heart of Africa. And not only is it the heart of Africa, but it is also the country, the richest country on that continent. I could even say the world. But we're not going to go there. It is full of natural resources. And unfortunately, yes, unfortunately, and maybe it is a curse that we have all of those natural resources. They have caused us endless wars. My country is surrounded or bordering by nations who all vie for those natural resources and the Western world. Just one of those natural resources is cobalt, and it is found in our devices, in all those iPhones and all that stuff, and it is also that precious mineral that is indispensable for these electric vehicles that are about to take over. Okay, I wanted to take this opportunity and read a book that talks about conflicts, minerals, war, profit, and white saviorism in Eastern Congo. Look at this picture. Yeah. So, in the 21st century, the relationship between violent conflict and natural resources has become a matter of intense public and academic debate. Yeah, right. I mean, how many of you guys know what's going on in Congo? The whole world knows what's going on in Sudan, maybe. But we all know what's going on in Ukraine, in Russia, in Palestine, Israel. We all know that. But as a result of fervent activism and international campaigning, the flagship case of conflict minerals has captured global attention. This term groups together the artisanal tin, tantalum, coltan, tungsten, and gold originating from war zones in Central Africa. Known as digital minerals for their use in high-end technology, their exploitation and trade has been singled out in numerous media and United Nations reports as a key driver of violence, provoking an unprecedented popular outcry and prompting transnational efforts to promote conflict-free ethical mining. Focusing on the Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo, conflict mineral is the first comprehensive analysis of this phenomenon. Based on meticulous investigation and long-term fieldwork, this book analyzes why the campaign against unethical mining went awry and radically disrupted Eastern Congo's political economy. It dissects the evolution of the conflict minerals paradigm, the policy responses it triggered, and their impact on artisanal miners. Vogel demonstrates how Western advocacy and policy have relied on colonial frames to drive change, and how white saviorism perpetuates structural violence and inequality across global supply and value chains. Now, I need to know, Christophe N. Vogel where is he from? Because as I mentioned, some of these authors may not be black, but they do speak about such issues that directly affects me, my people. So yeah, he's white, but he's helped in the research of what's going on in Congo. So now next we have The Secret Diaries of Charles Ignatius.
Charles Ignatius.
By Patterson Joseph. Here's Patterson Joseph. Beautiful black men. We love black excellence. So, what is this book about? It's 1746, and Georgian London is not a safe place for a young black man. Charles Ignatius Sancho must dodge slave catchers and worse. And his main ally, a kindly duke who taught him to write, is dying. Sancho is desperate and utterly alone. So how does the same Charles Ignatius Sancho meet the king, write and play highly acclaimed music, find his beloved Anne, become the first black person to vote in Britain, and lead the fight to end slavery? Through every moment of this rich, exuberant tale, Sancho forges ahead to see how much he can achieve in one short life. I had little right to live, born on a slave ship where my parents both died, but I survived, and indeed you might say I did more. Stories like this of perseverance, of triumphs, of not giving up, of survival, and just this is what drives me, okay? These are the stories in which I draw strength, I draw my own resilience, and I draw a certain serenity to know that a lot of our ancestors did survive these traumatic events, and we simply don't hear enough of those stories. And boy, oh boy, I'm telling you that I will be digging for those stories and bring them to y'all. Okay? All right. I don't know what that was, but yeah. Okay. Next we have Brooding Over Bloody Revenge. Enslaved Women's Lethal Resistance. Yes. And this looks tiny, so I might just get through all of them. We'll see. From the colonial through the antebellum era, enslaved women in the USA used lethal force as the ultimate form of resistance by amplifying their voices and experiences. Brooding Over Bloody Revenge strongly challenges assumptions that enslaved women only participated in covert, non-violent forms of resistance, when in fact they consistently seized justice for themselves and organized toward revolt. Nikki M. Taylor expertly reveals how women killed for deeply personal instances of injustice committed by their owners. The stories presented, which span centuries and legal contexts, demonstrate that these acts of lethal force were carefully premeditated. Enslaved women planned how and when their enslavers would die, what weapons and accomplices were necessary, and how to evade capture in the aftermath. Original and compelling, brooding over bloody revenge opens a window into the lives and philosophies of enslaved women who had their own ideas about justice and how to achieve it. Now, this is an excellent book. So it's women's history. Not sure if it's fictional or non-fiction, but I will have time to look into that. And then we have Liberty by Caitlin Greenidge. Let's see her. Oh, where is she? She a natural sister, and we love to see that, don't we? We do. Coming of age as a freeborn black girl in Reconstruction era Brooklyn, Liberty Sampson is all too aware that her purposeful mother, a practicing physician, has a vision for their future together. Liberty is to go to medical school and practice alongside her. But Liberty, drawn more to music than science, feels stifled by her mother's choices and is hungry for something else. Is there really only one way to have an autonomous life? And she is constantly reminded that unlike her mother who can pass, Liberty has skin that is too dark. When a young man from Haiti proposes to Liberty and promises she will be his equal on the island, she accepts only to discover that she is still subordinate to him and all men. Ooh, I got excited about Haitian and then I heard subordinate and I was like, oh, it's one of those. As she tries to parse what freedom actually means for a black woman, Liberty struggles with where she might find it for herself and for generations to come. Inspired by the life of one of the first black female doctors in the United States and rich with historical detail, Caitlin Greenidge's new and immersive novel will resonate with readers eager to understand our present through a deep, moving, and lyrical dive into our complicated past. Yes. Now, and finally, it is this book. I thought it'd be interesting to highlight a black hockey player because obviously we don't hear a lot of that, especially in a sport like hockey. So I saw this one, and it is Willie Orie. Willie, the game-changing story of the NHL's first black player. Let's get into the cover. Okay, excuse my ring light. But there's the man that paved the way for our black children to also want to play in hockey. Yes, okay. So obviously this is his autobiography, I believe. Sports hockey. In 1958, Willie Orie was a lot like any other player toiling in the minors. He was good enough to have been signed by the Boston Bruins, just not quite good enough to play in the NHL. Until January 18th of that year, Orie was finally called up, and when he stepped onto the ice against the Montreal Canadiens, not only did he fulfill the childhood dream he shared with so many other Canadian kids, he did something that had never been done before. He broke hockey's color barrier, just as his hero Jackie Robinson had done for baseball. In that pioneering first NHL game, Orie proved that no one could stop him from being a hockey player, but he soon learned he could never be just a hockey player. He would always be a black player with all that entails. Yikes. There were ugly name-calling and stick-swinging incidents and nights when the Bruins had to be escorted to their bus by the police. Fuck, man. But Orie never backed down. When he retired in 1979, he had played hundreds of games as a pro and scored hundreds of goals, his boyhood dreams more than accomplished. In 2018, Orie was inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame in recognition not only of that legacy, but of the way he has built on it in the decades since. He has been for 20 years now an NHL executive and has helped the NHL Diversify program expose more than 40,000 boys and girls of diverse backgrounds to unique hockey experiences. Inspiring, frank, and shot through with the kind of understated courage and decency required to change the world, Willie is a story for anyone willing to persevere for a dream. And there you have it, you guys. Don't you feel like I have some fantastic gems in this list? Yo, I'm excited. I can't wait to dive in these stories and bring them to you. And maybe you'll be reading alongside with me this month, right? So There you have it, you guys. That's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And on this note, please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and I will see you in my next video. In the meantime, continue to be black and beautiful. Yes. All right.